Hey everybody, Jinza here, and welcome to another episode of Small Bytes Plus. So I have a bit of a treat for you this week. We're going to be checking out a free-to-play TCG that recently popped up on Steam that goes by the name of Duelyst. So before we get started, those of you that know me, I have actually quite a bit of a history with TCGs, and we have a bit of a love-hate relationship going on because they're one of the very few games that I thoroughly enjoy, but actually can make me rage. Not many games do, but TCGs do because of the RNG nature of them. Sometimes you can have an amazing time in them, other times not so much, and you'll just have the worst darndest luck and get the worst possible hands that you could ever imagine, even if you built an amazing deck. This game, it still has RNG elements to it, but it's kind of a TCG strategy hybrid, and I know a lot of this is strategy involved in TCGs, but strategy in the sense that you are actually in control of what's happening to other than the extent of what cards, they are cards, what cards you get pop up in your hand. That's the only RNG element. The rest is all in your hands, and I'll show you what I mean by that when we actually get into the game. It definitely works like, I guess, some kind of retro strategy games where you'd actually sort of loosely position your troops and attack them. So we'll get into that when we actually get into the game. The game itself is, as you can see, is really beautiful. It has amazing artwork, and they did a really stellar job with just how cool this looks. I mean, I hadn't seen artwork in games like this for a long time. There's a lot of pretty games out there, but nothing to this extent, this amazing hand-drawn stuff. And I'm very artsy, so I really appreciate stuff like this. The game itself, if we go in, the deck building works very similar to Hearthstone and other games, but I would say it definitely has Hearthstone in mind, especially with how the decks are set up. And it even has crafting where you can sacrifice cards and make your own, very much like Hearthstone, and everything is in the rankings like Hearthstone is. So you have common, rare, epic and legendary cards. The decks are very vast. There's currently 6 different fractions, which are basically like your classes, and they all have their own unique monsters and abilities. And then you also have neutral ones as well. As you can see, the different minions and that, they're all made out of sprites. And it has some really nice sprite work in this. And this is what they actually look like in game when you summon them. So as you can see, all these wacky and crazy little things. It kind of reminds me of a game that was on mobile. It wasn't a TCG game. I guess it acted very similarly to a TCG game called, I think it was Pixel Heroes. I don't know if it's still around. It was quite a while since I played it. But the little minions and all the different wacky monsters, they remind me of that. And I actually quite enjoy that. I know some people don't really like sprites and would rather just have just bog standard artwork, but I don't know, I think they're quite charming. I'm still on the fence whether the really nice hand-drawn artwork and the sprites go together. They're both really nice in their respective ways, and they're really amazing job. But I don't know whether they really mix together well, and you'll see that when I get into some of the boards. Some of the boards are not so bad, and the little sprites don't look so out of place on them. Others, board is so really nicely hand drawn. The sprites they look like they're just floating there and don't really belong, but you'll see what I mean when we get onto some of the levels. So the different minions and that, they all have different abilities. Some they're just bog standard summon minions. Others have special abilities that work very similar to other TCGs. So cards with, say, Rush, they can attack straight away, rather than having the whole sleep period after you summon them. Obviously, flying minions can move anywhere and move over obstacles. Provoke basically means anything near them has to attack them. They can't move out the way. You have minions with range. And you also have spells, and each of the classes has its own unique spells. I am currently liking the Vitruvian. That is kind of my go-to at the minute. I haven't unlocked the Magmar or Vanmar. The different classes are pretty easy to unlock. You start off with the Liner, and then you play one practice match against the computer, playing as one of the other things, and if you beat them, then you unlock the class. The classes do level up, and as you level up, you unlock new cards, and you can also purchase them. So I guess we should have a look at that before we actually get into the game. So you can win spirit orbs, you can purchase spirit orbs with gold, or you can spend real money. And it's basically your card packs. So you get these little gems, and we actually did quite well on our one there. We actually got an epic, so actually see Chaos Elemental. Whenever this minion takes damage, it randomly teleports. So, yeah. Decks themselves, you can definitely build various different decks and get a bit creative with them, just because the variety of the cards is really nice. So, some minions actually have negative effects, but with certain classes, you can actually sort of capitalize on that. I've seen minions that when you summon them, they actually kill your own minions, but then if minions have stuff like this, Dying Wish, if they were to die, you draw a card. So you can build some really wacky decks, and the cards themselves, basically, well, it's hard to explain now because you guys can't see this, so we'll go into that when we actually get into the game. But the cards, I would say, are more of a backup for you rather than actually your cards being your main focus, and you'll see when I get into the game. So before we actually get into the game, you also have daily quests. So these are basically like your quests in Hearthstone, where you can get free gold. Because I should have shown you one thing about this game, the cards I would say they are a bit overpriced for what they are. It may just be me, but I don't really feel paying loads and loads of money for virtual stuff is really acceptable. I know people just say, oh, you don't have to. But I don't know, I like to support games. I really do. But when it comes to TCGs, some of the prices, I just think they're a bit too wacky. They try and be on par with like real life cards. But you're buying something you can keep forever. You're buying something here that, yes, it's going to make your enjoyment better. But at the end of the day, if the game goes bust later on down the line, well, you just lost everything. I still like to have stuff. I mean, Tanya's crazy with Pokemon cards. She's got loads. She has to have a whole collection. But, it's nice. That's something that you can look back on and be like, yeah, I used to actually collect the proper WoW TCG cards. I still have a loads and loads and boxes, because I used to buy the big multi-packs of them and just go crazy. But I don't know. You can play this game and you don't feel like you're being overpowered for people who have actually spent loads of money on the game, so it's not too bad. You also have a profile which shows you all your different levels and your rankings and that. And you have an armory, which is basically another cash shop where you can buy stuff that's overpriced and just cosmetic. Anyway, enough with the rambling. Let's actually get into a game and I'll show you what it's all about. So I'm going to actually choose the Vitruvian Imperium, which they're kind of like, they buff everything. So I guess what cards do that? Druid's quite big on that in, buffing your cards. So I guess they're kind of like a druid. And we're going to try against one of the ones I haven't got, which is one of these two. And as you see, the characters, the artwork's so nice on it. It's so really well designed. You can see a lot of love has been put into it. But so, yes, we get a little bit of story. We go with what we got because they're not too high. Obviously, when you start off, you want minions that cost a low amount of mana. So this is your board. You've got a little grid. These give you extra mana if you step on them and control them. They disappear afterwards, but just while the little bubble's up. And how the game works is you actually move your character around. So this is you. If this character dies, that's it. It's game over. That's it. You're done. But you can actually use spells and stuff to buff them. So I'm actually going to buff him seeing as we can't actually summon anything at the moment, and move him forward. So now for 3 hits, he will do 4 damage. And the second player will do the same. The second player always starts nearer to the mana crystals. That's just like having the little mana card in Hearthstone. But what I like is, for the most part, the RNG doesn't really affect you too much. If you die, it's usually because of your bad positioning of monsters. Maybe you attack the wrong thing. Maybe you actually used the wrong thing. So we can actually summon a flying monster here. They can move anywhere, but there's not really too much in the way. It's basically monsters, so if I wanted to go straight across here, I could summon him here and go straight across, whereas this character would actually have to walk around. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to move forward and we're going to take out this minion he summoned. And then we're going to move this here and summon this down. And then hopefully next turn we might be able to move it there. So basically, when you attack stuff or stuff attacks you, both monsters hit each other regardless of whether you killed it or not. So there's no getting lucky, one-shots in and killing something. You know, there's always risk. So if you hit something, you're going to take damage. And this is what I like. I kind of like the strategy element of it. This is one of the maps that actually doesn't look too bad. There's some of them that are really... There's a lot of detail, like actually on the board. So the sprites look a bit out of place. But this is actually one of the ones that looks... The sprites don't look too out of place, but it still looks really good. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm still on the fence whether I actually like that. So, you see the computer's outplaying me here, and he's actually managed to take that over. But what we can do, so we can destroy an enemy minion near my general, or we can destroy an enemy minion near my general, or we can summon this guy. We also have a special spell. These charge up over time. This will actually only cost 1, but then we won't be able to destroy a minion. So I think what we're going to do is, because that's a quite nasty minion, it only has 1 health, but we're still going to take 6 damage, which we don't want to do, especially on our general. So I think we're going to kill that off and then just whack this guy in the face, because we're still doing more damage than he is for now anyway. So he can't out-damage us unless he buffs himself up. And this is what I like. The turns, they're quite fast, and there's a lot of planning. So you're not just planning out what cards am I going to use. I'm going to use this, this, and this. Because stuff can happen completely differently. So you might think, oh yeah, I'm going to use this combo, and this combo. But stuff on the field might not actually be set up to be able to achieve that. So it kind of takes that RNG element of getting very specific cards, and actually gives you a fighting chance even if you've got stuff that you can't really use too well. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to put my little shield bearer down here, because I really would like to try and get up there. So if we move this guy over here and attack, and then we can actually use our Iron Shield spell, which actually summons a little minion to help us out, which is quite nice. Each of the factions actually have different abilities they can use, and as you see there's a little timer on it. So it's summoned it in the wrong place because it's completely random, but that's still not too bad, and we can't do anything, so because he's at sleep deprivation. But he's going to stand there and be annoying, so this guy can't do anything now. Though he is doing something, destroy minions with 3 or less attack. Ouch! So yeah, he just annihilated me there, and now he's going to go for a hit. But we're quite even Stevens on health, so it's not too bad. We still may be able to come back from this. So let's see what we got. That's useless at the moment. Give a friendly minion +1/+1, draw a card. So I say we summon our guy here. Let's buff him up. Do we get anything that's got 1? No, but we have got a really nice strong monster. And some of the strong monsters are really good, but they cost a lot of mana, as you might expect. So you can walk through your own monsters, so we're going to get close to that. We might as well hit him again. We're fairly... Well, we are. We're exactly even on life, so I don't know if this deck has stuff to buff up. Another thing I forgot to mention, you can have 40 cards in your deck, just in case any of you are wondering what deck limits are like. You can have up to 40 cards, but obviously, like all games like this, the limit sometimes works a lot better if you don't have as many cards as the deck allows, because then it allows you to sort of pick and choose and hope that you're getting monsters that you want to get. So I have no idea. Let's go for the Granddaddy. He'll probably die instantly or some horrible stuff like that. We keep hold of that. You can replace cards. Oh, we got another one. We got a Dragonbone Golem, guys. So as you see, just like in all the TCGs, as the cards progress in mana cost, they get really big and strong and wacky. So we can actually finish him off right now. So we move this forward and then we can bop him in the face. Boom! And there we go. And there's a victory. So as you can see, the whole there's a lot of strategy elements to it, so it kind of evens the whole RNG aspect out, where you're not relying on getting certain cards or getting cards to combat certain things. It's a bit more like a strategy game would, and try and take board position and get your minions in a good place. And obviously some of the minions have really wacky stuff where I think airdrop, they can basically summon anywhere rather than summoning around your general. And there's that element of chest where you want to protect your king, which is obviously your character. And that is pretty much Duelyst in a nutshell. They're definitely adding more. They continuously adding more cards to it. I do like, as I said before, I do like both styles, and for the most part, I guess the sprites do fit on the levels well. There's just some where they look a bit out of place. And we actually leveled up and got some stuff. And there also is, let's have a look, when you first get new stuff, it actually gives you a really nice bit of lore on the creature. And I mean really in depth, really, really in depth. They put a lot of time into giving each of these cards and even the artifacts that you equip to your character and the spells just a backstory. So if you like getting into the lore and getting really into the nitty gritty stuff, then there's definitely a lot to sink your teeth into. So yeah, that was a Duelyst. It's free to play. The link will be in the description as always, and I definitely recommend, if you like TCGs, you should check it out. You can adjust the settings, but I mean you shouldn't really have too much problem playing this even on older PCs, because it's quite low and demanding, and you definitely don't need to spend the spirit orbs. I do think maybe if they made the prices a bit cheaper, so you weren't spending so much for virtual items, that it'd probably be worth investing money into it as well. But as it stands, it is a bit pricey. But it's up to you. It's your money. You can do what you want with it. And I will see you next week for another first impressions of some random game that I really want to show you guys and maybe encourage you to go try it out. So you know exactly what to do, guys. Like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for something else. Bye-bye.